What's going on, guys? Guy in the backseat, Doom Failure Games. Haven't made a video in a very long time. I'm sorry about that. I really can't think of a positive explanation except that my laptop broke for a little bit, but that was even a few weeks ago. So I'm sorry. I'm back, at least for a little bit. And today I was having a discussion with one of my buddies, Joel, and we were talking about the extra deck, just in general. Um, and Joel's question to me was, should they expand the extra deck? Should they make it 20 instead of 15? And I basically said at the beginning, no, they should keep it at 15. But if they do expand it, then it should be for new types of cards. It should not be to basically turn the entire extra deck into a toolbox, which made me think about, the history of the extra deck as a whole. So this is what this video is. This might be split into two videos. I really hope not, but if it is, then it'll be much more informative, and I probably will get half the views on each one. So either way, so the history of the extra deck, part one. If this is part one, and if it's not, then I'll tell you about the end of the video. So history of the extra deck. Just so people understand and know, the extra deck was kind of this very iffy clause at the beginning of the era of Yu-Gi-Oh! It was kind of an experiment, more or less, to have ways to summon more powerful monsters, but with specific conditions, and you needed specific monsters. So it became this little like place where you can access all your cards, but these cards were special and could only be utilized by playing Polymerization at the time, and having two specific monsters either on the hand or in the field, or on, in the hand or on the field. So to sum it up, the extra deck was basically in Legend of Blue Eyes, which was the first set ever. There were about, I think, maybe 10, 15 fusion monsters, and one of them was Gaia the Dragon Champion. The other ones included basically all crap. That's the best way to sum it up. Flame Swordsman was the second best fusion monster in the extra deck at the time. So, and at the time it was also called the fusion deck, and it was unlimited, meaning you could have 100 cards in there if you wanted, as long as there were only three of each copy. And that was the extent of it, because fusions occurred so rarely, and there was no deck really centered around fusion at the time. And in the beginning of like everything involving Yu-Gi-Oh, Gaia the Dragon Champion was the most powerful fusion monster until the next set where Black Skull Dragon came out, and eventually people wanted to summon Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon because they saw it in the show and it was pretty awesome. And this was the extent of extra deck monsters. Fusion monsters were it. You had special monsters that were only summoned when special conditions and certain situations happened. And then Yu-Gi-Oh decided to get more creative, and they started, not only they gave you more, benefit for your cause. To summon three Blue Eyes White Dragons to the field and then fuse them, obnoxious. To fuse them from the hand, way better. Gaia the Dragon Champion, I've never seen it hit a competitive table in my history of the game. And then along comes Magician Force, and we get an effect on a fusion monster. Now, I don't know if this was the first one, but this was the first one that became a, like, oh, I might try to build a deck around that type card, which was Dark Paladin. Dark Paladin, like, was Yugi's ace monster. People wanted to build the Yugi deck, so they made a monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! In the anime that was able to compete with the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and these two titans would clash, and it would be so great, so awesome, because if you do the math, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, 4,500, but that's a dragon on the field and three in the grave, which means 2,000 extra attack points to make Dark Paladin 49, just enough to stop it. So, and even if Kaiba tried to play his defusion, it wouldn't matter because Yugi could discard a card and stop it. So it became this cool way to integrate effects onto fusion monsters. Now, at the same time, you had another thing going on in the side, which is my argument, and will probably be on the next video. But because I've just decided this is going to be two videos. But either way, so you have fusion monsters, which have always involved polymerization. There's no fusion gate at this time, no future fusion. No, I think Summoner of Illusions might have existed, and Magical Scientist, where the extent of getting stuff out of the extra deck, without having to do too much. So, but then it's like Konami, I guess they were experimenting with a new style of releasing cards, and they come out with Contact Fusion. Now, I'm only showing Gizaris because it's the most well, received in terms of the competitive format. But you had Neo, like Elemental Hero Neos, that had all the Contact Fusions under the sun that saw a little bit of competitive play, but Glads were Glads. I'm sorry. Gizaris is this fusion monster, but you don't have to utilize polymerization, and you just shuffle the monsters back into the main deck, which was kind of odd. And you also had XYZ Dragon Cannon, which did the same thing. You could contact fuse it by having the parts on the board, and this was Konami's like first attempt, I think, at something similar to Synchro Monsters or Exceeds. These stronger monsters that just you don't draw them, you can't just play them normally. You have to play them through the extra deck, and since there's a now they I don't even know if this is the point. I think it might have been included at this point where they made a 15 card limit in your extra deck. So, or fusion deck. Still, mind you, this is all still the fusion deck. This isn't even the extra deck yet because synchros haven't existed. So what ends up happening is you get Gizaris, who has this amazing effect, a way to summon itself. I mean, you have XYZ Dragon Cannon, which I think was mildly sort of competitive, maybe. I don't even know. But I know that Glads were, and, eventually fusion monsters also continued to evolve even up until present day, where we have stuff like the mask fusions, which these things are transformation fusions. Like they basically are alterations of current monsters on the board. They aren't a fusion, but they're a fusion monster. And, it says must be special summon with mass change, which was a spell card that summoned a monster from the extra deck. It had nothing to do with, polymerization like fusion. So, Konami basically made three different types of fusion monster, effect-based, contact fusion, and the transformation fusion. On top of the fact that you have the standard generic ones that nobody really seems to give a darn about so much anymore. Except I can't admit Blue Eyes Ultimate is still kind of a pain in the butt to get around. Um, Either way, so this is the extent of fusion monsters. But then one day they just kind of, dropped synchros on us. Synchros were, I think, everything that Konami wanted fusions to be, but they were just too powerful when they were first conceptualized. Like I think that when fusions were thought up, like they said, well, what if you got this monster and this other monster, and then if you had them, you could put them together and make this bigger monster. Well, Synchros did that, but it was generic. Like you could use any one type of monster and any one other type of monster, and there you go. You could make an awesome Synchro monster. And Synchros were very well received. The fusion deck becomes the extra deck now because now you put the Synchros in there, and the fusion monsters are now being usurped by these awesome, easier to play white cards called Synchros, and they're all basically banned effects or like really awesome effects that are now put on a monster form. I mean, you have Red Dragon Archfiend, you got Stardust Dragon, you got all the elaborations of synchros, and eventually, at one point, you get a freaking fusion synchro, which involves fusing a synchro and any other type of monster with polymerization, which was just where'd that come from? And so you see how Konami likes to integrate the fusion, you know, lifestyle in with the synchros, and the extra deck starts to get more and more and more, compact. Like you have to start picking and choosing over what's going to be where and what's going to do what. And this is all great, but then on comes the next anime, which if you haven't noticed, Fusion's got a big push in GX. They were played in the standard one, but that's also where Contact Fusion was released. Then you get 5Ds and you get these, Synchro Monsters and Synchro Fusions. And then comes Zexil and you get Exceeds. Now you have like three types of cards that can be crammed into the extra deck. You have these new types of monsters that nobody's seen before. They're these new black cards, and they're awesome. They're way easier to play. They're simpler to make than synchros, but they're not as powerful, or they're decent, or they're limited, or whatever. And then what does Konami do? They just toss another transformation again, because now you can not only make an exceed, but you can make a you can chaos exceed evolution by putting a card on top of another card, and then you can play another card and make it into this card, and then you can play another card and make it into this card. Like, when are they going to stop? So now you got four levels of Utopia. Like, this is not my final form. Good job, Frieza. But either way, you have all this nonsense going on in the game, and you're still stuck at 15 cards. Like, are you going to play Synchros? Are you going to play Fusions? Are you going to play Exceed Monsters? Which one? You have 15 slots. Fill them. And I get it, 15 is a lot, but whenever you're trying to like utilize some form of toolbox, and if you're trying to build a Utopia deck, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have this. That's 4 cards. If you play 2 a pop, that's 8 of your 15 slots. So should we put in more slots? I still say no. I think that Konami was also going to go into something involving Synchros and Exceeds, because you have cards like Black White Wave where it says if there's a face-up Exceed monster on the field with a Synchro monster as an Exceed material, you target any card, banish it, and if you do, you draw a card. This is a phenomenal support card. But, does that mean that Synchros and Fusions or Exceeds are going to have to coincide at some point? Probably not, because we have new information about another type of card that we're going to be getting in the next series. Arc V has been announced by Konami officially, and or whoever makes this. I don't know who makes the anime, but I know that Konami makes the trading card game. And to my knowledge, Arc V includes a new type of monster called Arc Monsters, which are red framed cards, finally. We'll do another video about that. But either way, a red framed card that is basically a superior change, aka Mega Evolution or Digivolution of monsters. So, like, you get higher powered monsters of old monsters. Like, the example that I read was like, imagine a dark magician becoming an awesomer dark magician, basically, and with 1,000 point attack and defense increase and effects based on units. And it's a whole bunch of complicated reading, and I think it's all jumbled up. Probably be way simpler to explain it like with a live demonstration than like just words. But point is if we're getting another type of card, that's really where the question is. Do we expand the extra deck or not? Does Konami do it? Would they do it? Would they put it from 15 to 20? And if they did do 20, how toolboxy does everybody's deck get? I mean, that's my opinion. Now, there was a rumor circulating a long time ago that when they made Formula Synchron, which was a Synchro Tuner monster, they were going to expand the extra deck up to 20 slots, but 5 of the slots had to be reserved for Synchro Tuners exclusively. That, I think, is the best way that they could go about this. They leave the extra deck as it is. Fusion, Synchros, Exceeds, all those can stay at 15. But if you'd like to include 5 Arc monsters in your deck, sure, put them in your extra deck. They're not included in the main deck. They're superior changes, all that other good stuff. But there's only 5 slots for them. I think that would be my own personal way to go about it. I don't ever want to see the extra deck go past 15 because it just becomes toolbox meta, and that's not something that you really want to play in. But either way, leave your opinions in the comments down below. As always, comment, rate, subscribe, and have a nice day.